That's what I'm talking about, son. Get you some of that daggone pie.
Woo-hoo! Looky there. There's your bug-eyed big one right there.
Getting started. We're getting started.
Here's what I'm talking about. Gosh dang gorilla.
Let's go, baby. Straight meat. God, look at that big one.
All right, welcome in everybody to the BAM Pod. I'm your host, Big Ed, and on the line, we have got the gentleman who was just on the cover of the brand new BAM magazine. It is Mr. Fred Roumbanis coming to us live all the way from Arkansas. Fred, thanks. Welcome into the show.
Hey, thanks, Ed. Man, what a treat. I appreciate it. Thank you.
No, man, this is definitely our treat. We love having guys out here. You know, this guy comes from the West Coast. Came from the West Coast, went back out to Arkansas. Now he's out there fishing all over the country. And, you know, he is one of the top anglers in the country. And, you know, we here at BAM, you know, we would love to have him back on the West Coast, but we understand how it is. And until we get to that position where we can be dropping the millions and millions of dollars that he's making every day out there fishing, you know, we're just not going to get him back yet. So, but we're going to do our darndest. So, yeah, today we want to talk a little bit about the summer transition that's coming up, Fred. And, you know, it's just one of those times a year that is so, it's kind of difficult, right? I mean, you've got fish coming off the beds. You've got them looking to go to their summer haunts. You got to figure out where their winter haunts were before you can find their summer haunts. How do you guys go out there? You know, one of the top tournament anglers out there. How do you guys go out and kind of take on the challenge of this time of year?
You know, really, these are the days that you've got to put the time on the water. And what I mean by that is you've got to be daylight. You can't be sitting at McDonald's sipping on coffee. You need to be on the water right when day breaks, because when post spawn happens, you know, these fish, they're a couple of things happen right after spawn, right? There's that post spawn where they're just hard to catch. They're lethargic. They don't really want to. They're wore out. They're tired. There just needs to be the right scenario for them to want to feed. The second thing is you start getting onto the little bit warmer water, and what spawns right after the bass is the brim, the bluegills, you know, and your perch and stuff like that. So you got to kind of keep in mind that, you know, E72, you're going to start seeing that, but you're also going to see at daybreak, a lot of these lakes have your threadfin shads, whatever shad you've got on your lake, there's going to be a shad spawn, and you got to look for areas that you believe those fish will spawn. And they show themselves as soon as that sun peaks out. And those are the opportunities that you have to really look for, because that's how you find a quick bite in the morning. And if you don't capitalize on a quick bite in the morning during this post-spawn funk, I'm telling you, it is tough fishing. So for me, you know, obviously, what's that?
Oh, you know, I was just going to say, this is that time of year, like you're talking about, you have to have that early morning. Now, you also said, you know, you got to go out there and put in the work. So if you go out and you start, you know, in the morning and you're throwing top water, you're throwing that reaction bait, you're throwing something early, what time do you start to think, you know what, if I haven't gotten bit by a certain amount of time, I'm getting off the water? Or do you just grind it out all day?
Oh, no, absolutely grind it out all day, because there's these little, there's like 20-minute windows, it seems like, fishing. And whether it's, you know, a front, like some clouds roll in, or just little things that happen throughout the day that'll trigger those fish to feed, and paying attention and close attention to when you get those bites. The biggest thing that hurts me the most is, because I do work really hard, is I find almost too much in practice. And if things aren't working out and I'm not on that bite, I'm like, well, you know what? I can catch them over here. I can go do this. And then you tend to run around too much. And I'm probably the most notorious for running and gunning on our tour. And you miss those little peak windows because you're running and not fishing. So sometimes it's best to put your trolling motor down in an area where you, like you said earlier, and when you introduced this section, was you pay attention to where they were pre-spawn. Because post-spawn, they like to go back into somewhat of their winter haunts. They like to go to the offshore stuff. Sometimes they like to go in that whole, a little bit deeper water, those secondary points, stuff like that. So you kind of want to almost reverse time a little bit, but at the same time in your mind, you're thinking shad spawn, brim beds, you're thinking everything else that's going on that time of the year. Because there will be a majority, there's always going to be fish shallow year round. I mean, there really are. There's always a population of fish that live on the bank, and they're usually the right ones. They may be a little more sparse. They may not be schooled up as tight as some of these offshore fish. I mean, we've learned so much with the forward-facing sonar in wintertime and how it seems like 70% of the population do live offshore almost all the time. However, there is still quality bass that are on the bank year round, even post spawn. And a lot of times they just spawn. They may hang out under a dock. You got some fry garters around there, but the brim beds might be very close, those flats. And now, I mean, you can find things a lot easier using our Garmin, live scope in the perspective mode for those shallower fish. I like to put my perspective mode out about 50 feet, and it shows all the brim beds and that dirtier water and stuff, little sneaky stuff where those big fish will still hang out, and you can see them swimming around. So that's a whole nother avenue. But there's so many things that go on, and so many ways you can win fishing tournaments this time of the year. But it can be very slow. It can be hard. Sorry, the wind's picking up. We got storm rolling in out here in Arkansas. But yeah, I mean, it's just I actually really like this time of the year because when you do unlock a couple of those pieces of the puzzle, you can find a bite that works great first thing in the morning. You can find that 10 o'clock bite. You can find that afternoon bite where the shades get right. And then you can find that last minute bite. And if you can milk run a perfect, scenario, you usually do really well.
Yeah. I talked to Laker Howell a few weeks back, and he was talking about, the same kind of the same thing you talked about. There's fish up shallow all the time. But as this transition, you start looking at those brim beds, you start looking at the shad spawns, and he starts focusing on drop-offs and ledges and going out there. Now, coming from California,
and current.
I was going to say, coming from California, you kind of know that. Do we have ledges like that here, or is that more of a southern deal? I've seen the lakes there, and I know how they kind of lay out and what they look like. And we have such a very, the amount of, how do you say it? The amount of water that moves up and down here compared to what's out there. Do you focus on those ledges this time of year, or is it just, I'm staying as shallow as I can, and it doesn't matter if you're on Shasta or if you're on Texoma or if you're on, you name it, you're staying shallow and looking for those fish?
I'll tell you, when I left California, I had no experience with ledge fishing whatsoever. Sure, I've caught them in offshore rock piles and I've at Clear Lake, stuff like that. But when you talk true ledge fishing, there's a whole nother, that's where they go on the Tennessee River. They go up shallow. This is Kentucky Lake. This is Pickwick, Wheeler, all those places. They go shallow, they spawn, and it's like they all go to the ledges. The water kind of starts kicking some current through the river, locks and dams, and those fish, and really all they're doing is following the bait. I mean, that's really what I think it is more than anything. And of course you got the current, a little cooler water, but that is 100% a learning curve. And it took me a hot minute to learn it. Out west, yeah, I do. You got to fish your strength. I mean, ultimately, when you're tournament fishing, you got to fish with 100% confidence in everything you're doing. So if there's a guy that's got all that confidence in, going offshore and when there's no current, doing the finesse stuff, whether you're Nico rigging or drop shotting or whatever that is. And then when they start pulling current, pick up a, big jig or start driving a crankbait down and grinding the bottom or a big spoon or, stuff like that. If that's definitely ways to catch them, but you can still, guys that aren't good at that, you can still find those bites. They're just far and few in between, and it's a lot slower. So, I feel like at West, I tend, when I lived out there, it was more, I'm just going to try to start fishing a little more in the grass. I'm going to start looking for, cover that makes sense to me, boat dock, stuff like that, that will always hold brim or bait fish that don't necessarily go, as deep. I'm not saying bluegill don't go deep or anything, because they do, but, as long as there's some kind of food source for the bass, there's
Right.
going to be bass there.
Okay. You know, and that's one thing, you know, you mentioned out here. Now, grass grows everywhere across the country. And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter what lake you're in or where you're at, there's always going to be some kind of vegetation that you're looking for. Is there anything in the summer? Like, you know, when I think about it here, you know, you got the California Delta and you've got hydrilla, you got hyacinth, you've got, you know, all this thick, nasty grass that you got to punch and work. Talk to me a little bit
Oh, I
about,
love it.
you know, this time of year when you're out, you know, you're not here and you're not fishing that stuff. Is there grass like that that you target and look for?
So it's funny you say that because I live here in Arkansas, in the Arkansas River.
Mm.
And what initially drew me out here was the fact that it kind of reminded me of the Delta. We didn't have the tides, but we had lock and dam where they pull current, and there was some inflow and outflow. And there was vegetation, lots of vegetation the first time I came here. Unfortunately, unlike the Delta, the floods over the course of the next decade had completely wiped out all the vegetation. And last summer, I came back mid-season and just came and fished, and I noticed all this new growth. And it was a mixture of pepper grass, which is kind of like what we had on the Delta, you know, like we call hippie weed out there, right?
Right.
And I don't know if guys still do, but that's what we called it. But you got that, you've got coontail, and then you've got some milfoil, and now, I mean, it's like it's all up and down the river. It's almost like it's turned into a Gunnersville if you've been there,
Wow.
and we all know how the bass they love that grass. The bait fish find their way in it, and that's the big thing too. Is obviously whenever you're fishing grass, is to have life in that grass. You want, I mean, usually it does, but the most life you can find, the better. And if you can ever see bait rolling through it, and you may have never noticed it in the past, but now with all of our electronics we have nowadays, you can literally see the bait running through and around that grass, even when the water's in low light conditions, dirtier, or whatever the scenario is.
Right.
You still see that activity. And bottom line, if there's that kind of activity, there are bass there, and generally in the grass situations, there's big bass, and those are the ones that will win you tournaments if you can, you know, key in on them and catch them.
Well, you know, it's early for this, but I know the kind of angler that you are, so I know that, you know, top water is one of those things that you absolutely love. Throwing top water,
100%.
throwing top water over grass is, you know, it's a blast. Obviously, you know, you can go out and catch fish, do that. This is the time of year when top water comes on. How much longer until one of your favorite baits comes on? The old I don't know what they called, frogs. I think that bites
The frog.
soon.
So the frogs actually, where I live in the country right now, it is happening. You know, you get a little ripple, I'll throw a buzz bait, and you know, I'm with GSM, and we've got the Buckeye Berserk buzz bait, and that thing is just a noisy. I mean, that draws them up. That draws them up over even deep water. But the frog, you know, I got that boom boom frog, and it is absolutely happening right now. Like I said, this evening, if they don't cancel that term because of the storm rolling in, I'm going to have those two baits on, and that's all I'm going to throw.
Wow.
Because the bites I'm getting right now on it, they're big. And you only get 3 hours of fishing these deals, but I know that if I can land 5, I am going to have a very high potential of winning the event. So there's no point in me picking up any other rod.
I'll
and
tell
the
you,
thing about throwing a
I'll tell you what.
What's
This thing only this airs on Wednesday in the morning. So the good news is if they have the tournament tonight, no one will know that that's what you said you were going to do.
Tell a new fish story with Garmin EchoMap Ultra 2 chart plotters in 10 and 12-inch models featuring traditional clear view, side view sonar. Heard about Garmin's live scope, live scanning sonar? EchoMap Ultra 2 is compatible with that also. You can even capture your favorite and best fish catches with the new screen recording feature. What more could you want? How about built-in Garmin Navionics, inland and coastal mapping? Wireless networking? Check and check. EchoMap Ultra 2. Check it out at Garmin.com or shop your local Garmin dealer.
So
nobody will know it, but I will also be jumping in with my youngest son, Avery. We fish the Wednesday nighters. So
oh,
so normally
nice.
I'll jump in with Jackson on the Tuesday nighters, and then the Wednesday night. They're just fun tournaments. They're just little
Yeah.
jackpots, you know. It's just a great group of guys. And I'll tell you what, I get my butt kicked by these locals. I'm telling you, on a regular. So it keeps my head up. You know, it keeps me on my toes because these guys know their. Here's the deal. I'm a daytime fisherman. I am
Right.
not an evening time fisherman. And it seems to me, and maybe you know this, but at Clear Lake, like even when I would fish a couple of the night tournaments there, I could only get the frog to really, get him to eat it right till about 30 minutes before dark, and then that bite kind of dies for me, and it takes a little while for that dark time when you can. They'll still eat a buzzbait. They'll eat a buzzbait till dark, but then it kind of turns into more of like a spinner bait. So I'm gonna have to catch my fish literally in 1 hour because once it gets dark, my old eyes, I can't eat. I'll be throwing my stuff right on the riprap in the banks.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you
but
say that because being out here, Clear Lake especially was always known for Texas rigged 12-inch black worms, and I never could figure that out. When I first started fishing some nighttime stuff, it's like, what the heck is this going to do? It's sitting on, it's on the bottom.
yeah,
It's not doing much, but they would just flat out wreck them and have 30
oh
to 35 pounds at night in, like you said, a 3 to 4 hour time period. They would just waylay these fish. It's like,
yes,
I would struggle with it. So honestly, throwing the top water, like I was doing like you, I'm throwing the top water. I'm throwing something that makes a lot of noise. And these guys are just
right.
kicking my butt throwing a worm. And it's kind of, it's like you just shake your head. I don't know. I don't get it, but okay.
I don't know what it is about it, but that's exactly right. I mean, these guys they take like a single Colorado black spinnerbait,
Mm-hmm.
a buzzbait right till dark, that, and then like you said, a big worm, dragging a big worm, and that is 100% the deal. And I lived in Southern California for a little bit, and I fished a night tournament down there at San Vicente, and I remember spooling up we had the black lights on the boat, spooling up with Strand, the line that's got that blue fluorescent pitch to it, that glows, and throwing those big 10-inch worms and a lot of those big like 12-inch hand pours that were down there, and just having a blast. And somehow we were still losing to Mike Long.
Yeah, well, he was kind of living and dying on that water.
Yeah, we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, we'll just leave it there.
But no, it was a good time. That is fun. That is awesome. But yeah, this time of the year, for real, like, you're crazy if you don't have frog tied on your rod. Here's a fun fact.
Mm-hmm.
And this is an old school bait, and they don't make it anymore, but I'm sure there's a lot of baits like it. And, I'm going to try to get with GSM to try to design one of the Frog Factory, similar to what I did back in the day on Shasta.
Mm-hmm.
Was I would take, Mans used to have a little kicking frog, but it was like glittery and it was translucent. Dude, you catch big spotted bass on that thing, throwing it across points. So, I mean, that's something that you don't hear anyone talking about, but obviously that bait's probably been discontinued for 15, 20 years.
Maybe, but I'll tell you what, there's one out there, and I don't want to take away from your guys' stuff, but there's a bait out there called the sprinkler frog, dude.
Oh yeah,
I love that bait. But that same thing, they make a translucent one, they make them in brown, they make them in all the colors. But the way, I mean, it's like a whopper plopper frog hybrid kind of thing. And just what you're talking about, throwing that thing across those points, just swimming it back slow, and it's amazing. Just amazing.
I can't really indulge in some of the new baits we got coming out, but
well, I hope
something to be along them lines.
I know you can. I was gonna say, I know you can't say exactly what's coming out yet.
Yes.
Make sure you come back when you can. We'll do that for sure. Talk about some of the new stuff.
I'll definitely do it. I'll send you some to try. I still got some of your jigs you tied for me years. Probably 25 years ago. So, what was that lake you took me to up in
Scott's Flat?
Scott's Flat. Yes.
Scott's Flat. Oh yeah,
that was
big
one
small,
of the
big
funnest
smallmouth lake up there. I know you were. I always remember how surprised you were. You were like, I think it was Arjun Bennett
Dude.
that just said, you got to go out with that guy. He'll show you that lake. And we get up
Yeah.
there and I'm like, there's one here, 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 and here, and here. And you were sitting up there
Gosh.
just going, you really have this on
What?
lockdown.
Yeah, you knew the address of every bass in that lake for sure.
Yeah.
But that was a cool, fun time.
Oh,
So
the smallmouth
yeah,
up there, it's amazing fishery. I mean, you know how well it is out here, how nice it is out here to fish. There's so many lakes, little lakes like that everywhere, great places to go
yeah,
fish. And I think that's, one of the things that is so great with some of the new formats that are out there is these tournaments are starting to go to some smaller lakes and we get to see
yes,
I mean, there's
yes.
little lakes they've been on for the MLF stuff. They're Bassmaster. Even those guys are going to some smaller lakes with some of their formats, and it's very cool to see. Because there
Yeah.
are
Well,
there. Go ahead.
oh, good. No, I think Mark's got. Didn't they go to Martinez or something not too long ago or something?
Oh yeah, we've been. I mean, we've been to the
So
Oroville. The
I
Oroville Afterbay, dude, is coming up.
see, like that stuff. Like, dude, I used to go down there and salmon fish back in the day,
Yep.
and I'd see all those little, the bays and those creeks and stuff around there, and I'm like, man, that's crazy. I've never fished it, never bass fished it,
Yeah,
just salmon.
yeah,
When they ran up to the
that thing is a great
summer leader after.
fishery there with some big fish in it.
Oh man,
But it's just one of those things that this time of year, I know that you're a big frog fisherman, and I know it's that time of year where these things start turning
yes,
on. You can talk about the ledges that you guys have out there, but here in California, we don't have a lot of those ledges. We just have so much depth change, and so it's like what would be our ledges are gone in in a matter of weeks.
we
It's just
two things that in California that I never really got to experience, and I may have just missed the boat. Obviously, it was ledge fishing was something I learned, and once I learned it, I mean, I don't know, the last 3 tournaments of Kentucky Lake have all been like top tens or top fives. I mean, it's been really good to me. Once I learned how to really start fishing that stuff. However, brush piles, like, maybe they're doing it at Clear Lake, but I don't really ever remember fishing brush piles out west. For me, that was never a thing. Sure, I fished some standing timber here and there at Shasta and Orville, but I never really did the brush pile thing. And then when I moved to Oklahoma, it was like, if you weren't fishing brush piles, you might as well. I mean, it's like when swim baits came out. If you weren't throwing a swim bait, you're getting your butt kicked. Well, if you weren't fishing brush piles with a big worm or a big jig, you don't even put your boat in the water. And so those are the things that I had to learn. And that's another thing that happens this time of the year is those fish may not necessarily move all the way to a ledge, and they move out to, a mid-depth brush pile that just caters perfect for the fish.
Well, and that's one thing that I would, ask you is, you say you missed it out here, but I got to go to Florida and kind of experience the brush pile deal. And it's something that, like you said, it's totally different. And yes, I know a fish is a fish, a bass is a bass, wherever you're at. But at the same time, brush pile fishing out there, I mean, we sat on a brush pile for probably a half an hour to 45 minutes, made, I don't know, 80 to 90 casts, caught one fish, and it was like, all right, cool, we got that one. Let's go to the next one. I'm
right?
like, wait, what? And depth and that sort of thing. It's so different for me, but you're at Florida.
Yeah, you got way more patience.
I don't know. They were, it was some tournament. These guys were on it, and they're like, "Oh no, we got to fish these brush piles," and you fish them and fish them and fish them and fish them and fish them, and it's like, do we leave this one? Well, we haven't caught anything on it yet.
Right?
Is there anything in it? This was honestly
now,
before forward-facing sonar was a thing.
Yeah, now with forward-facing sonar, you can do so many cool things over it. Dragging a glide bait up and over without never getting hung up. Before I'd be like, I'm not throwing a dang $100 bait over a brush pile. That's stupid. It's going to get hung up 100%.
Yeah,
I'm way higher probability of getting that bait snagged in the brush pile and catching a fish. Now, you could throw that bait over a brush pile, 30 brush piles and never get hung up because you just crawl it up and over it and watch fish attack it. And it's almost impossible to beat that kind of bait. For now, I mean, obviously something new will come along, but, those are the kind of things that it's funny because I'm kind of old school, and I'm thinking about doing a YouTube with my son Jackson because he's that new school scope. Throw the glide baits, throw the big, do all this cool. Like I love big baits. Don't get me wrong,
Right.
but I'm more of like I'm reading the land. I'm looking at that rock vein coming down the hill. I can imagine out here. I still scope and look at the structure, but I'm not necessarily staring at it while I'm fishing. You know what I mean? I'm still
Right.
concentrating on that imagination bite. And I know I need to transition to what he does, but I think it'd be cool to do a YouTube thing with him where it's like old school versus new school.
That would that'd be absolutely interesting to watch for sure. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there would love to, because that's an argument out there that's definitely in our world when it comes to bass fishing is, is this stuff or should this be allowed or should it not be allowed? And I mean, I'm in that boat that I just believe that it's just another tool. They wanted to outlaw.
Another tool, and it's we as anglers have got to continue to learn because it's not going away. I mean, there's
right.
you know what I mean? If you don't play that game, then you're not going to last any longer. And I'm starting to feel that right now. I'm having a rough season because in my head I'm wanting to go old school and do things like I've always done 100% on my own. And I'm like the last person to talk to other anglers. I just go out and I need to start doing more homework. I know I need to start doing the stuff that these other guys are doing. And I just feel like you give me 3 days on a body of water, I'm going to put something together, and that's to me, that is truly the funnest part of it. That is like not knowing, like we're going to this place, Chewan River, I think is what it's, I probably just said it wrong, but it's in North Carolina. I'm leaving there next Thursday. I have yet to look at a map of the lake, but don't get me wrong. I'm going to look at some, whatever I can on the internet for about 4 hours. That's about all I'll give myself before I get there. But I want to find out where the boundaries are. I want to find out where the ramps are. If I can Google Earth and just see what the contours look like, whatever it is, then I can at least get there and know where I'm going to at least put troll down and start my practice. Whether there's a bass there or not, I'll have no idea. But that's the fun part, because as soon as you start running a new body of water, you start thinking, oh man, one time at Clear Lake, I found a little pocket like that, and I got back in there, and there, I skipped a frog, and whatever. You just had good memories, and then you start utilizing that that knowledge of I don't know what you call wisdom, whatever it is, just experience,
right?
And you put that forward to what you're doing, and it builds that confidence really fast, even in the unknown. So, and I think that's the good thing that I've been doing it for as long as I have, is just having those confidence. The problem is I've had enough failures too to give you that just enough fear that you're doing the wrong thing. So I got to balance that out a little bit.
Well, and that's one of those things, when you're fishing those events and you have the score trackers and you have people that are, you're watching these guys do it, and you're sitting down there at the bottom going, hey, wait, these guys have caught 47 fish and I've caught 2. I'm not sure what's going on here, but I'm doing something wrong. And I think that's probably,
you're doing something wrong.
I think that's probably where those events, are so interesting to watch for all of us and I want everybody to go, grab the magazine, read the magazine, because the article that he did was talking about that sort of thing. And I believe that going into this lake, that you're going to be going to, you're talking, you really haven't seen it before. You've never been there.
Yeah.
But how do you, and break that, how do you make that decision? Let's talk a little bit. I don't want to ruin the article for anybody, but how do you make that decision on like grabbing it and then saying, oh, you know what? I'm just doing something wrong. I need to go try this place or that place, or making those quick decisions on the water.
First thing, you got to go and before you load the boat, not knowing what the fishery looks like. I don't even know. Like I just got to put together the tackle that I've succeeded with and leave the tackle that I haven't behind. And just go with this has worked for me in the past on, several tournaments, maybe even in that general, like the Carolinas, which we all know, like I've won a tournament on a frog, a long time ago at Lake Murray. So, obviously I'm going to have a boom, boom frog tied on there, but, I'm going to go with that. Here's baits that I've caught fish on I can compete with. I know that if I get on this bite, I'm a very strong competitor. There's going to be baits that are in my boat right now that I'm going to take out. It may be a mistake, but you still want to have enough different variety of techniques. So when you do get there and you go, my gosh, that looks like a great area to, skip a worm or whatever it is. It's just, you just want to be prepared for that. But in our format, it's numbers and what techniques. I'm not necessarily going for 5. I definitely sit in contention for heavy hitters, so I want to get a big one. And we know a frog and a swim bait are a couple of my strengths, so I'll definitely have the boom boom frog and the boom boom swim bait in there. But I will have those strengths, but I'll also look for I'll have plenty of Yamamoto Senkos. I'll have I don't know if you've thrown the swimming Senko, but that is, dude, you don't have to necessarily put it on a bladed jig. You can Texas rig that little dude and wind that and catch a lot of fish. So, just techniques to get numbers of fish. Those are the kind of things that are going to be, in my boat, and plenty of, I'm going to have I'm a square bill. Dude, that little shallow water, we're fishing a river. It's hard to beat that square bill for numbers of fish. And that's a little sleeper bait. I don't know if you fish that one much, but it's a very shallow. I like it in that 2 foot of water to 3 foot of water. And
just a square bill in general, or do you have a specific?
It's this specific one by IMA. It's just
okay.
It just catches a lot of fish. It's a numbers bait. So I'm gonna, that's the one I'm gonna go to first. And just those are kind of things that I got to have in the boat.
Okay.
Who knows if any of that's going to come to play, but it'll definitely be how I approach the first day of practice.
We're going to take a short commercial break and talk to you about one of our great sponsors, StoreQuest Self-Storage. They're here to help you get your garage back. As an outdoor enthusiast, you have gear, lots of expensive gear, equipment, boats, trailers, and vehicles, probably all stored in your garage. You need a storage space that's easy to access, secure, and climate controlled. And that's where StoreQuest comes in. Head over to storequest.com. Plus, members receive an exclusive 10% discount with the offer code BAM10. That's BAM 10. StoreQuest is the official self-storage partner of the BAM Tournament Trail. Now, back to the BAM Pod.
Yeah, and I think that's important right there, is that it's practice, and you're going out there, you're trying to find these things, so you've got to make. Now, I know the answer to this, but are you one of those guys that likes to fish without the hooks on, or do you just, I don't really care, and I got to see what I'm catching?
Well, that's so on a body of water that I've been to, and I fished. Some lakes we just go to over and over. So
Right.
I'll go check an area and not sit there because I've caught big ones there in the past. A body of water like this I've never seen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to absolutely stick them. For one, it may be the only fish I catch all week. I want to say I caught a bass on that body of water. For two, I want to see what lives there and see if I'm fishing the right potential. Now, I get 2-3 bites in a very short amount of area. I will pull the trolling motor up and run at least a mile. You know what I mean? Like, I will get out of there and go look for something similar because I've got something that I think I could go catch some fish. You definitely don't want to sit there and just catch everything. I hear guys, man, I caught like 25 pounds down this drive. Well, you dumb, you shouldn't have. Why? That's great. Cool. But just watch what happens in the tournament when they don't bite.
Right.
And I believe me, I'm notorious for taking pictures and practice of a fish or two I catch. And they're always the right ones, and even when you catch that right one, you still go back to it, right? You still go back, and that's not. You're like, when you're fishing, and you're like, really? Do you think I'm gonna catch that 6-pounder again? Well, I got to at least try it.
And I was just gonna say that. You talk about that. Oh, I caught that right one on Thursday, and the tournament starts Friday. And it's one of those.
And every one of us will go back to that fish. I promise you.
Well, I was
we'll
going
go back
to say
to
that. Do you go at it with do you go after it with a different bait, or do you go after it with the same thing, hoping that he's that dumb?
Well, if the conditions allow for it, you try to fish the conditions. What technique you think will work best. But mostly. Yeah, I'm going to go back with the same thing. Heck, if that one ate, maybe Big Brother or Granny wants to come out and eat it. I don't know. So, yeah, who knows? I just the biggest thing, I think we think too much. And again, I'm just telling you all my fault, because
Right.
I know a lot of times I look down on my deck and I go, dude, I have nowhere to stand. I got so many rods out here. If I just had like 3 or 4 rods tops, I'm having a good tournament. And I know that. But all fish counts. You're like, there's a little stretch of riprap. I'm gonna pick that square bill. I'm gonna go down that bank, and there's some lily pads, and I'm gonna swim a jig right there. I'm gonna throw a frog over that mat. Just
Right.
you gotta just fish. You just do what's right, and but sometimes changing up too much is a bad thing too. So
Well, and that's one of those things that I think people, when I'm watching a show or I'm watching you guys out there fishing, or, I'm filming or doing whatever, it's one of those, I look at guys and I go, how is it that you just look, and I know it's probably just experience, but is there more to it than, what? You just look at an area and go, you know what, that's what needs to go through there. And what gives you that feeling? It's like, oh, you know what, that's where a frog needs to go. That's where a swim jig needs to go. That's where
it's yeah. I mean, nowadays, I can't speak for the new guys fishing because there's so much on YouTube and whatnot. But for me, it's just that's the scenario where I caught them.
Okay.
At this lake, not that lake that we're at, but like at Grand Lake, Oklahoma, that looks kind of like a spot I caught him on a football head. I got to try this. Like you fish out of experience, and you just fish that way, and so that I think is what. I mean, obviously, it's what's held me in this career for so long, is just being able and fortunate enough to have fished all these bodies of water and seeing so many different scenarios over the years, and caught fish so many different ways that you just pick up a bait and your confidence is right where it needs to be. If I'm ever fishing and I just have that sinking guts, like I'm wasting time, my troller's already up. Like I don't ever fish without confidence. I just can't do that, because I've been there and it's just not good. Trying to gain confidence in something that's supposed to be the deal doesn't work for me.
Yeah, and
it does not work.
I think
I gotta fish off of what I've done.
Well, I think a lot of people. I think a lot of people do that. I think a lot of people go out and they, oh, I should be throwing swim baits. So they throw swim baits all day long, and it's like that swim bait bite wasn't on, so you caught maybe one fish. And like you say, it's more of a confidence thing. But at the same time, how do you get confidence in a bait? How do I pick up the boom boom swimmer and go, oh, I'm going to throw this thing, and just where do you get the confidence from?
A lot of it is any technique that you throw, whether it, like I said, it's a boom boom swim bait or a Carolina rig, which I absolutely hate throwing, and I know is one of the best techniques out there. You got to just launch your boat with that rod on your deck and go fish all day long until you find what works with that technique, what scenarios work best, what situations. And you can't just do it like on a beautiful spring day. You got to do it like on a nasty day. You got to do it in the winter. You got to do it out in the summer. I mean, you got to see when and what times of the year does that actually work best. And then even, if we're talking Carolina rig, that's just the rig. You got to think of what baits to put on the end of it. Sometimes, like a soft, like fluke style bait's a good thing to throw. Sometimes you want a creature bait. Sometimes, you want a big worm. Sometimes you want a Senko. It's just that all comes with countless days on the water, and many of
well, and I just
think to the dermatologist over the years.
Well, I was gonna say, I hear, guys who are, you're out there, you're fishing on these waters and you're doing it for a living. Your wife's not letting you back in the house unless you bring her a check. I get that part, but
I'm sitting on the front porch right now.
But it comes down to, the average, joking. I know, the average guy goes to work every day. They don't get to put on their taxes. I've said this. It's like, you're a true angler. You're a professional angler when on your taxes you write down angler. Other than that, if you're not writing angler, then you're a house painter or you're a car mechanic or you're, whatever. Right. That's what you are. Now, those guys, they want to go out and catch fish and they want to go, hey, I'm going to go out Saturday, and I get one Saturday a month where I don't have honeydews to do, or I don't have this to do or that to do, so I'm going to go fishing. When you're talking to someone like that, and they've got to build confidence, they got to go out and get, what is it that you can just tell them this time of year? It's summer. They're going to go out. They're going to have a couple frosty beverages while they're out there, of course. But
Yeah.
what is it that you can tell that guy, that person, that woman, that man, that whatever? It's like, go do this. And I guarantee if you do it all day long, or you do it for a while, or you do, what is it, that one thing that they should be out there trying to do to catch fish and have a successful day on the water? And what does success look like to you? I mean, to you, it might be, hey, I caught 20 fish today. It might be caught one because you're looking specifically for something. But if you're a guy that's just going out once in a while, what do you think
Yep.
out there is that deal?
If you just want to go catch fish,
Yep.
and yeah, I could tell you go pound a frog and you'll see some of the most epic blow-ups this time of the year, because it's just, like I said, the brim bed, stuff like that. If you just want to go catch fish and have a great day on the water, get you a Buckeye shaky head and a Yamamoto sensei worm,
Okay.
and just put it on 8-pound line, quarter ounce to 3/16 to a quarter ounce, and just throw it around. You will catch so many fish. And honestly, I should tell myself this and throw it more in tournaments, because it just flat out catches them. I had my non-boaters do it down here at U.S.A, and they caught fish, and it was just like, it's just a no-brainer. You just catch fish. Shaky head this time of the year is yeah. The actual shaky head's called a spot remover, and they got a new pro model with a better hook on it. So that with the Yamamoto sensei worm that just came out, I mean, dude, it's out of that like buoyancy, softer, soft material, and it just has so much action. And you just crawl along the bottom. Those fish that are moving out from the banks, they're going to see that thing. A lot of bass, people don't realize, especially with largemouth, I mean, their jaw, they like catching things on the fall. So if you downsize to 8-pound line, whether you're using like a 10-pound master braid or something like that, going to the leader of 8-pound, that fall, the 3/16 with that worm just gives a nice little spiral. They see it. Bass love catching things in their mouths. So if they're just kind of swimming out there, they see that fall, they're open their mouth, suck it in, and you'll get most of your bites on the initial fall. As pulling away from, I'd start casting up in about 6-8 foot of water and just work your way back with it in most of those lakes in California. And you'll catch a lot of fish. It's just, 100%. And then you can let it go to the bottom and drag it. Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to hear. I want to hear one of the top anglers in the country tell us to go out and do what this will catch you fish, because I think that's what people tune in for. They want to know what makes them a better angler. What's something. And if you don't have that much time to go out, you get one day, you get 2 weeks on the water sometimes, when you're out practicing and fishing and hit a tournament, and you get the time on the water, and that's a great thing. But the average Joe out there that wants to go out and fish, and they don't always know what to start with, and that's a great bait to start with right now. I take that advice. I took some friends out here recently to Oroville and did the same thing. I said, here's a shaky head, let's throw it and let's see what happens. And I said, this is how you work it. And we caught fish doing it. Wasn't the exact same setup, but it was close, and that you just talked about, but it works. And I think that someone like yourself telling people, it's like, hey, here's a way to go try. You'll just catch fish. You'll catch fish. You're not saying you're going to,
and you'll have a fun time.
Exactly.
Go find you a secondary point and go to work. I mean, it's pretty simple, and you can work your way out to the main points as the water gets warmer. Those fish are migrating back out. Find some bait. I mean, you don't have to think too much. Just put troll motor down, and you're going to run across them. And it's then obviously the other technique would be like a drop shot. But
oh no,
I think I honestly like a shaky head, dude. Like I was a big and I've won a lot of money on drop shot. Don't get me wrong, but it's crazy how sometimes everybody gets a drop shot and that they kind of forget about that shaky head technique. So it's just something that fish definitely eat.
Oh, we got a guy here on the West
this Sunday.
Coast that I think you know who it is, but what was his name again? It's like Greg something, Greg Gutierrez,
Greg Gutierrez, yeah.
and he's made a
But
little
he's
bit of money on that shaky head. That's he's one of
yeah, and I
those guys,
think
and
he's
he's
got his
been
own.
all over the country, and I guarantee it, those guys are,
Oh yeah.
some people know who he is all over the world, and
He may or
made some
may
money
not have
on
been the
that thing.
first one to ever show me that thing. He may or may not have. We roomed together when I first, hit the road. So that and honestly, I don't remember pinpointing it to a spot, but I think he might have been the first one to show me that deal. So,
Yeah, that shaky
yeah,
head,
I mean that's
works. I'm there with you on that.
yeah, 100%, dude. Works everywhere. As a matter of fact, I probably got to go rig one on my rod just for when it gets dark. but I'm gonna put one of the bigger ones on with a dang 10-inch ocho worm or something.
Yeah,
Um,
that's when you're talking about summer transition, we're talking about where to pick spots to go. He just gave you a couple of them, secondary points, working out to the main points because these fish are moving out. That's been said over and over. So they're done spawning right now. I mean, for the 90% of done spawning, there's probably still lakes somewhere. So don't take this as exact whatever we say, but it's most of these fish are done spawning. They're moving back out. They're going to find that place they're going to be for summer. And, if you've got a shaky head out there, if you don't know what a shaky head is, do a little research and figure it out. Because I will tell you, he's dead on that thing.
yeah,
That shaky head catches fish. I think everybody knows about the drop shot. That Aaron Martin's guy kind of made that pretty popular,
yeah,
a long time back. And there's some great, that catches fish as well. But like you said, that shaky head really does it. And some of those baits that you just talked about, they're amazing. And I think people are really catching on to it.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning to the BAM Pod tonight. I hope you're enjoying the show. But right now, we're going to take a commercial break and talk to you a little bit about Excel Marketing LLC. They're your local TV expert, and they have something to tell you about Dish TV. If technology, value, and customer satisfaction are important to you, then it's time to cut the cable cord once and for all. Upgrade your TV experience and start saving with Dish today. Call Excel Marketing LLC at 209-542-4129 or visit them on the web at excel.getdish.com. They're Excel Marketing LLC, your locally owned, operated, and trusted satellite TV experts. Now, back to the BAM Pod.
yeah. I mean, yeah. it's a moneymaker for a lot of guys. That's for sure.
It's with talking a little bit more about summer coming in, and the grass starting to grow. I know out here we have punching, and that's kind of that, a big weight. If anybody doesn't know what punching is, I think minimum of like a 1 ounce weight all the way up to a 1.5, maybe even 2 ounce weight with some kind of a creature bait of some style, something that can slip through. Is that this time of year leading into that, does that become something you do, the punching and going through that grass? Because you talked about the grass and something lively. Well, those things are waiting for a crawfish or a bait fish to come through. Is that something you do this time of year?
Oh yeah, 100%. If I'm around it, I'm punching. I mean, I love punching. If that mat looks like there's potential of being some fish under it, and it's funny because there's some things you can look for when you're looking at mats. And the guys on the deltas, you look for that spiraling, kind of twisted looking grass that might be just emergent just under the surface. If you see a ball of that, you're crazy if you don't flip through that. I mean, it's we got a lot of that primrose, and it's almost like gator grass, like real viney stuff. And then we got some water willow that kind of gets viney. And when the water comes up, just inches here on the river, because we don't have like a 3-4 foot fluctuation like you do on the delta. We have just like a foot, and then if you go up the river, it can go way up. But on the lower basin of this river where I live, you got about a foot, and when it's basically touching the seam of the dock, that's one of the only things I have glued in my hand. That and a frog. So because those fish just move right to the bank and pick up what wasn't available. And they love that cover, and it's just ambush spots, the brim get under it. I mean, it's a neat deal. And punching's definitely, gosh, one of my favorite things to do. I just probably don't get the opportunity on tour to do it enough. And I'm glad you mentioned that because I probably should make sure I at least have a setup in the boat for this next tournament in case there is grass like
I got to tell you,
that. But
I'm
I don't
pretty
know.
sure,
I have no
your
idea.
wife may be getting the majority of the check, but I think I've given you so many ideas here that I want a little bit too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, break down your setup for that because I'd love to hear how you rig up your punch rod and how you're approaching that.
So right now, I transitioned to Phoenix rods this season, and they've got a bunch of different models, and so I'm really learning them. Like for frogging, I'm using the M1. It's an M1 series, and it is 7'4" heavy power. So that deal on a frog, it's an extra fast rod, but it really allows you to skip that frog nice. And it's got all the backbone in the world, and it just walks it casts good, and the hookup ratio is insane. So for frogging, that's what I've been using. Now, as far as for punching, I got a 7.6 heavy. I don't like too heavy of a rod, and it's one of the feather rods. So it's really a lightweight rod. And it's there's extra heavy and there's heavy, but I like the heavy because I just like a little bit softer, more parabolic bend to it, if that makes sense. I don't want to I want that fish to eat it and pull down a little bit before I just yank it out. You're going straight 65, 75, 80 pound braid, whatever you're using. And you just tend to jerk it out of their face with too stiff a rod. So, and to be honest with you, the heavy versus an extra heavy, I feel like when you're punching, especially that real thick stuff, you get more of a down swing to gain more speed. So you're throwing more weight downwards, like on 1.25 ounces into that mat. That with a heavy one, you don't have that spring load, kind of like a bow. When you're pulling back on a bow and you're shooting an arrow, you've got that bend that flings it forward. Well, if you use your rod properly and allow it to swing up and then snap back down, you can actually punch through stuff a lot easier and get away with a little lighter weight. And once it does penetrate through, the fall rate is what it comes down to. So once you figure out if they want it really fast or they want, once it gets through, to drop it down a little slower, you can really key in on that little subtle deal and get more bites. So allowing, a heavy versus an extra heavy rod, to me, is a huge, huge factor.
Well, Fred, we're getting towards the end here, but I do want to ask you one more question because with punching, you're talking about something with you just said 65, 70 pound braid. You're talking about a 1 to 1.25 to what's the hook that you use? Because you're talking about a stiff rod, you're pulling on these things. What is it that you use to just say, you know what, I can't have this thing bending out? What is it that you're using?
So, it's funny because way back in the day, when it first kind of got big on the scene, I was buddies with Andre Moore and all them, and Reaction Innovations came out with a hook, the BMF hook. And I've still got a bunch of them that I save for tournament days.
Wow.
It's a straight shank hook. It's got a little piece of shrink wrap on it. And it, to me, truly is probably the best of all times. Now, I've been playing around with hooks. And remind you, I don't really have a hook sponsor right now. But I'm kind of digging that spear point hook they've got. And then the other hook that I like is that BKK. So I'll let you know after the next couple of weeks what I like the best. But that BKK has got a unique bend to it, and that spear point, when I hook them with it, dude, they don't ever come off. So, and that's the big thing too, is if you got them buried in that cover and you're trying to pull them out, you tend to have to troll motor to him, and sometimes it's hard to keep that tension on him. So you want to make sure he stays pinned once he's pinned. And a hook like that's designed for it. So there's a couple of there's a couple things there. Gamakatsu owner, they're all good. So it's just what you feels best.
Well, I'll tell you what, Fred,
style is definitely where I go.
The straight shank, yeah. We're about ready to wrap it up here, and there's so many people out there, I'm sure, that know exactly who you are, some of your stuff is. But I would love to give you this time to just let the world know, hey, this is Fred Roumbanis. These are my people. This is who backs me up. This is So take this time, man, and let everybody know who it is that we've been talking to and giving all this wealth of knowledge to us, who this is.
Okay. Hi, my name is Fred Roumbanis. No, I'm just kidding. No, yeah, I mean, I've been doing this full time now, I guess, for 20 years. I fished the elites, from the start of them in 2006 all the way till 2018. Did the major league from 2019 till now. Bass Pro Tour, on the U.S.A. team. Going to Italy for hopefully I'll win my 9th gold medal. So been on the U.S.A. team for quite some time, and I'm just fortunate to be on that team with such incredible anglers that just an absolute honor. And so really, I mean, as far as sponsors, I mean, I've got probably the best sponsors in the world. I've got a California company out there, Tink Industries. I'm giving Hank a shout out, Clay Guido shout out there. And I got Phoenix Boats, Mercury, Power Pole, Garmin Electronics, Bob's Machine Shop, and Miller Tech Batteries. So my boat's it's that new XC's model of Phoenix. It's the ultimate workhorse for fishing, and I got it really for the fact I can run those big waters. Like, we're going to the St. Lawrence River this year, and it can be super rough, and I can make those far runs and stay comfortable. So as far as the rig there, rods, Phoenix rods, Cortland braided line. I've got Yamamoto, Buckeye, Ima lures. They've been with me since day one. I mean, honestly, like Matt Pano and his group with Optimum, I mean, they've been like the unsung hero of my career. And I can never thank them enough for everything they've done with the Boom Boom swim bait. And we got the Frog Factory, which is the big logo on my boat now. And that's brand new with GSM, where we got what used to be the Stanley rivets are now the Frog Factory rivets. And we've got what used to be my Stanford Boom Boom Frog is now the Frog Factory Boom Boom Frog. And we got new baits coming down the pipes. I'm super pumped to get to work on. And we're going to be doing some giveaways there. I've got this really unique cup system that locks on the side of my boat, and then I leave it on there when I'm driving down the interstate. People honking at me saying I left my tumbler on the side of the boat, but it's actually locked in. It will not come off. So it's a cool thing. So it keeps me hydrated on the water, and then Crockett Creek beef jerky keeps me full of protein, so I can jabber and catch fish and have a good time. So if I left anybody out, I apologize, but I truly have the best support team in the world when it comes to bass fishing. And I want to thank you guys, Ed and Mark Lassane. And, I was looking at that schedule you gave me. I'm going to seriously look and see because if that works out, if my buddy Osif's listening to this, I may want to borrow an old boat I sold you at Clear Lake and jump in that tournament. That would be a blast if there's an opening. So
who has that boat?
My buddy Asif Masi. He lives in Buckingham, so he's got he's a great dude, and he actually came to South Africa. He's
nice,
familiar with the territory. Went out there for the U.S.A. team, and he helped us. He actually had a monkey steal the keys and run up a tree, and we were stuck without a rental car for a while. But we got him back. Had some experiences, so good buddy of mine. And if he lets me borrow the boat and time works out, I'd love to jump in that tournament.
Yeah, and I'll ask you about that.
See all my old friends.
Yeah. You've seen some of the schedule. The BAM Trail has come, and we are here now. And Mark has gone all in on this deal, man. We are here. We want to stay. We want to make this desirable to other anglers. You're out there. You're in Arkansas, and you've heard about the BAM Trail now. What is it that what do we got to do to get some of our California anglers back? Where are we at with this deal? How have you liked what you've seen?
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, first of all, I've always liked Mark Lassane. The guy has been such a strong motivation in my career since I started when I was 18. I used to build spinnerbaits for him, and he was working at a company who worked at DPR back in the day. So everything he's ever done is very selfless, and it's for the other anglers and for the community, the fishing community. And when he puts together a circuit, he's doing it for you, for all you guys listening out there. The guy is absolutely incredible, and so are you, Ed, for doing this. But I think the biggest thing is, I mean, heck, just letting everybody know that there's an awesome circuit out west now. I mean, we've got, an opportunity to go out there and compete for some great prizes. And, like I said, I would love more than anything to get out there and fish one or two, or, if the season worked out, I'd fish them all. But whether I can or not, that if Mama lets me, I don't know. But yeah, no, I think just letting people know. I know it's new, so most people aren't quite aware outside of California what's going on out there, or out West Coast. But that kind of stuff just comes over time, and ICAST will definitely open some more eyes, and that's just how that works. But I see big things. I see big things with that circuit. I really do.
Good. We're out here. I think there's been such a lack, and you came from here, so that there's a lack. It has never been about the anglers, the talent. The talent is here. We have some of the best anglers 100%. Out there. I mean, guys that you fish against all the time have come from here. Even guys from like Gary Klein, Skeet Reeves, Ish Monroe, Cody Meyer. Just to name a few, yourself, especially, there's so many people out there, so many anglers that come from the West Coast. And to be able to say, you know what? I mean, you moved to Arkansas so that you could be somewhere where you could make a living doing this sport that you absolutely love, right? So if there was an ability to say, you know what, I'm going to stay in California where I love to be and still make a great living at it, does that change your mind and make you want to stay? I mean, not knowing what you know now, but I mean,
absolutely. I mean, that's the whole thing is Mark's vision with what he's got going on is to give guys full-time careers and stay out west. And to be honest with you, the fishing out there is, I mean, it's hard to beat. I mean, it really is. I dream of the day I go back and get to punch the mats at Clear Lake or even Delta. But
October,
took a gamble and left out. I know, right? I love that time. I just got to find out when I'm supposed to be in Italy, because I know it's in October. So, I mean, really, it's just giving the anglers that opportunity is so huge, and to be able to, here's the cool thing about Mark too. He's got the BAM magazine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which we're talking on right now, and those are the kind of things that sponsors want to see. They want to see, you getting in those, getting that kind of press and that kind of coverage, because that gives them the value to want to support you and what you want to do. So, really just the biggest thing with any bass fisherman that I could give any advice to is be willing to give back. Sometimes spilling the beads isn't a bad thing if you look at the big picture.
Right.
So definitely, if you guys want to learn some of the best techniques and the way we think, read that magazine.
Absolutely. And thank you, Fred, for coming on and doing this. You've been a good friend for a long time. We really enjoy talking to you. You always are a wealth of knowledge. You're, just one of those guys, like you said, giving it up and giving people exactly, what they tune into this show for. The BAM Pod is here to try to make everybody out there a little better fishermen, give them some knowledge, get them to listen to some of these guys and understand a little bit more about who they are. And, we'll have another great angler coming up soon. I've got some lady anglers I believe I'm trying to reach out to now to get them on here too, because there are some women out there making some major stands on this whole thing, and I'd love to see them step up and fish with us at the BAM Trail. And I believe
that'd be awesome.
I believe there's a place in this sport for anyone and everyone that wants to fish it. You are definitely one of those people I know that believes that as well, and it's super fun. So it's a great event, and I hope that we can keep some people here in California making great money, and I hope we grow to be one of those tournament circuits that does that. Mark is working really hard at it, that's for sure.
No doubt, man. I appreciate what you guys are doing, and I'm sure all the rest of the anglers do as well. So thank you, Ed, and boom, boom, bam.
Well, that'll wrap up our show for this evening. I hope you truly enjoyed it. We appreciated you coming in. And if you come back in a couple weeks, we'll have another great angler right here on the BAM Pod.